Hi, I'm Sean from Bean Me Up. We are a 25 plus year old business in Goa. Over the years, I've met some amazing people doing some incredible things. I have spent hours meeting, talking, listening, and discussing various topics with these amazing people. It is these conversations that ignite the spark in me that has prompted me to do these podcasts. Hi, and welcome to another of my podcasts. Today we have with us an amazing guy, a very old friend of mine, Apurva Kothari, whom we lovingly call Apu. And I know Apu since he moved to Goa, his entire journey from when he started off, when he moved there. Welcome,
Thank you.
Apu.
Nice to be
Yay!
here. Yeah.
So nice to have you. You were on the top of the list, but somehow I was like trying to message
days.
you, and it was difficult to get hold of you these days.
Yeah.
You've been busy. Now you have 2 stores in Goa.
We've been running No Nasties, my company, for 15 years now almost. And we've been in Goa for the last 10 as well.
Yay!
I've been in Goa years, starting as a small shop out of my spare bedroom in Bombay, but then got tired of living in Bombay, dealing with the traffic, not having enough space to think. So just decided to move to Goa and
Goa is getting a little bit like Bombay, it seems like, from what I heard earlier.
For sure. I think the best and worst of Bombay, Delhi, all the metros is changing a lot. We've seen the change in the last few years for sure. So, but yeah, we've been running No Nasties out of small houses here, and now we have a bigger setup.
Yeah, you were my neighbor when you were at the house,
Yes.
when you were there.
And our
as
first
well.
office was right here at Bean Me Up. We had one desk which you
Yes.
graciously dedicated to us, and we put a small sign saying No Nasties office, and ate breakfast, lunch, dinner here. So it's been a
Amazing
good,
times.
Yeah.
Those were, yeah. So, like most people I've been talking to in my podcast, we are the people, or you are the people that were doing something. You were like doing IT. You were in the United
US.
States of America. You are an American citizen, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but something changed within us, and we decided to stop what we were doing, our careers, and move. And we made this change to move to Goa and started to pursue something else. And we are thriving in what we are doing because we did do it, or we did it so passionately.
Yeah.
Or are doing it very passionately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us about your journey and the transition that happened.
Like you said, I've been working in the tech sector for 12 years in the US.
Wow.
Like every good Indian child, did my engineering, went abroad for my master's, got a job in software, and worked there. Lived in San Francisco, New York. Worked for small startups, large Fortune 500 companies, and earned more money than I had expected. But I kept thinking that something is missing. You know, I kept looking for meaning and purpose in my work, not just earning money and spending it more on better wine, better clothes. That just didn't seem to make me happy. And I was missing purpose. Around the same time, in 2008-9, I started researching about cotton farmers and the issue of farmer suicides in cotton farming in India, which I couldn't believe the numbers. It was like one every half an hour.
It was
on average.
insane. Yeah, it still is, I think, I believe.
Yeah. We don't have the numbers now, but they don't report the numbers anymore. But we know that the situation isn't any better. And I couldn't believe it. It was happening like an overnight train ride away from Bombay, where I grew up. And it's like, why is this happening for years and years? I didn't realize it back then, but that was the planting of the seed for what is No Nasties now. You know, we said, I used to come back to India, meet people at the ground and say like, what's going on? What's causing these issues? And what can we do about it as well? So that was back.
I watched a documentary called Nero's Guests.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
Really
and that was
powerful.
really an eye opener for me to
Exactly.
know what is actually happening at the ground level in the cotton.
It's shocking. It's still happening. Farmers getting caught up in a cycle of debt to buy genetically modified seeds, buying expensive
and getting
pesticides. Microloans. They start from the government, public banks and private banks, and a loan shark.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult for them. You know, so we're trying to see what we can do about it. When we spoke to the farmers, they said switching away from GM farming to organic farming helps. It reduces their costs. Working in cooperative structures increases their revenue because they have more purchasing power and selling power as well. So fair trade systems helps as well. But overall, just what they were missing was support from Indian consumers. You know, they're going to such lengths to make sure that agriculture continues in India, but urban India isn't supporting rural Bharat. So they almost
Yeah.
felt disheartened and
Exactly. Yeah.
disappointed that they were not
So you
getting the
mean by people, by consumers buying brands like H&M or Zara or something,
Exactly.
it is not
Yeah.
supporting the
supporting foreign brands, not buying Indian cotton, buying American cotton. I don't understand why anyone would buy American cotton when you're
because
living
that's
in
what's
India.
available in a super cool mall. So
Exactly.
they don't know. There's a disconnect.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And then, excuse me. And then comes a brand like yours, No Nasties. What an amazing name.
Thank you.
And you are organic,
Yep.
vegan,
Yep.
fair trade,
Yes. And carbon negative.
and carbon negative.
As well.
Insane. Why wouldn't anybody buy your product? I don't know. Like
I
I
don't
buy your
understand.
product. I'm a big fan
You're
of your
wearing
product.
ours,
I'm
thank
wearing
you.
No Nasties.
Yeah, and you've been one of our oldest customers.
I love. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
one of the oldest No Nasties customers.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know about this brand, No Nasties yet, your life is incomplete. You should go and check out this website right now. No Nasties.
www.nonasties.in. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been around since 2011. We started just as a t-shirt brand, and we've always been small. But the t-shirt brand with graphic designs and prints has now evolved into a bigger fashion brand, getting shirts, dresses, trousers, everything always made with organic cotton as well. We're expanding. We're going to do more natural fabrics.
So fair trade is like something that is not very big in India.
Yeah.
So tell us something about what is the deeper meaning of fair trade and why it is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So surprisingly, actually, fair trade is one of those movements which is better known at the farm level and the producer level, but consumers in India don't know about it. In a nutshell, it's about making sure that the people who make your food, grow your cotton, are paid well, not exploited. So what happens with fast fashion, for example, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned these brands, they are trying to reduce costs, right?
Yes.
How on earth are you buying?
And there are
like,
sweatshops
there are
in
sweatshops.
Bangladesh where there's
Exactly.
like 1,000 people working for like ridiculous hours a day.
Exploited, not given overtime, not having safe conditions. We've seen the Rana Plaza factory incident a
Yeah.
decade ago where the factory collapsed, killing over 1,200 people as well. So the way they reduce cost is not by reducing their margins, but by paying less to the supply chain.
Yes.
Right? So working in sweatshops, reducing wages, and also not giving enough money to farmers, or using polyester, plastic, petroleum derivative fabrics, which
To
are
cut
cheaper.
costs. Yeah.
And that's not helping us. You know, if you see the total cost to us on our health, on the environment, it doesn't make any sense to use synthetic fabrics. You know,
Yeah.
we're used to growing up in India with cotton, with jute, with hemp and linen now as well, and those are the things we have to support.
Because the weather is also such. So it is conducive.
Perfect
This
for that.
makes sense
Yeah,
to do that.
Absolutely. So fair trade, continuing with that answer, is making sure that we help the producers, the food growers, the cotton growers, and make sure that they get the right wages. And we also help a little bit in the community development. We pay what's called a community premium, fair trade premium,
Yeah.
which goes above and beyond the product cost, which is then decided, that money is decided by the community itself on what they want to spend on. Better
Amazing.
schools, better technology, computer schools as well, better roads. Instead of somebody in Bombay sitting in a fancy skyscraper headquarters deciding what's happening in Vidarbha, the farmers on the ground will decide what's happening. You know, and that just made perfect sense because it's not just about people, not just about the planet, but we have to include the people in this movement of sustainability as well. So
Wow. Yeah.
it's a lot.
And so it is still a very water intensive cotton fabric. It's still very water intensive, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like with the
it's-
processing of it.
Yeah, so let's break that down. And it's actually a common myth as well that cotton is very water intensive. Yeah. But you have to see the entire life cycle and compare it to what it is. Think of where cotton is grown. Yeah. Vidarbha, a drought area. Madhya Pradesh, all these regions which is black soil, plateau soil. How is cotton thriving in a drought area? So the cotton plant itself naturally is drought resistant and can work in low water. Now what changed is when you suddenly want a higher yield, you're investing lakhs in buying seeds which are genetically modified. You want to protect your crop, you want to increase your yield. So now taking something which is naturally resistant, but scaling it up for mass production, right? So that's when a lot more water is required. So, but the amount of water required for our organic cotton, all of it comes from rain-fed farms. So it's not like, oh, you're pumping in extra water for irrigation, which has happened, say, in Punjab in the green revolution where they were making that. So it's not extra water going in, right? So that part is kind of a myth, which you want to say like, okay, these numbers which are thrown around 2,000 liters for a t-shirt and stuff, break it down. Say, where are you using it? Where is the water coming from? Is it natural water where it should be? Or is it being taken away from
pumped
other
it
sources?
or from the ground or whatever.
Which is not the case for our cotton. The rest of it, in production of a garment, what do you use water for? You use it for dyeing and you use it for washing. That doesn't matter if it's cotton or any other product, right? If you're using jute, if you're using anything else, you need to dye it. If you want a colored product, you need to wash it before you sell it to the consumer. That water is the same. So, but the beauty of cotton, it blew my mind when I went to the farm and I understood the process of this. Unlike, say, bamboo or linen or anything where the product needs to be processed and made into fiber, in the simplest form with cotton, you're plucking a flower, you're cleaning it, you're twisting it into thread, and then you're stitching it.
Wow.
There is no other processing required. You don't have to break it down into cellulose and extract fiber or anything which you would do even more in petroleum derived products, right? It's the easiest thing. You're literally wearing a flower. Think of it that way. There's nothing added except the color. And now if you do natural herbal dyed colors, no chemicals.
Yeah, so we're coming to that. So you're partnering. I was speaking to Sanjeev the other day in my previous podcast, and he mentioned that you guys are in the process of getting some amazing dyes done in Goa.
We're so excited with that partnership. We need to talk to him for dyeing as well as the circularity of fashion. What sensible.
So indigo again, which is like native to India.
Exactly.
And it's been around for the longest time. I think the whole world came to India for indigo because and it is so good on your skin.
Yeah.
And wow, and you guys are going to do indigo shirts now.
We've done a few already in the last couple of years. We're so excited that we can have a local source as well. Natural dyes just make sense, you know. Organic cotton, natural dye is the cleanest possible solution you can get. So we're trying to see if we can make it scalable. We've always set up No Nasties to be not like a niche boutique brand because we want to increase our scale, right? And natural dyes till now are not quite scalable. We have to figure out how do we make hundreds and thousands of pieces to make the impact larger. We want to challenge the H&Ms and say like, give customers a beautiful product at a good price, but the sustainability is on us. You know, you just have to look at the product and buy it. We don't want to make 50, 20 t-shirts and spend our time on that because it doesn't really move the needle in terms of global sustainability as well. So with Sensible Earth, if we can do something ongoing, to even take old clothes from your wardrobe, you want to buy new clothes, but what do you do with the old clothes? We're saying send them back to us. Yeah, we'll find the best alternative secondary use for it. If it can be used as is, we'll send it to a local thrift store like Good Karma as well, right? If it needs some repair and mending and it's still usable, we'll work with Sensible Earth and say, let's fix this and not break it down further. If it's just stained clothes, which might not work for you in your world, but it's absolutely fine as a garment, what if we put it into an indigo vat and say, here you go, brand new, refreshed garment. And worst case, we'll say, let's break it down.
And make a bag.
Upcycle, make a bag out of it.
Yeah. Right? Naka plastic bag.
Naka. Don't throw anything into landfill. How do we make sure that happens? So we're thinking through every stage and saying, how do we find
so there's no waste because there's so many clothes that end up in waste. There's countries in Africa, I'm sure you know about this because that just get bundled like truckloads of clothing
of old clothes.
And I've seen videos of like kids going and most of these clothes they discard and go into landfills.
Yeah.
So basically the West is using countries like Africa as a dumping ground.
Yeah, it's not just
their
Africa.
garment.
It's happening in Gujarat, it's happening in Kerala. There are trucks coming in with reusable, recyclable waste, and it's up to us to figure out what to do with that waste. So, yeah, it is literally a dumping ground for the West right now. So,
Same with plastic. I was in Coimbatore and I saw like mountains of plastic bottles, and these were like plastic bottles. When I went closer, they were Evian and Dasani and brands
Fiji.
that were not Fiji and brands that are not available in India. But it turns out that, and I asked the guys, what are you doing with this plastic? And they said like, oh, we import this plastic to recycle them.
Yeah.
But but
And
then
only a
the inside
fraction-
story is that it's not getting recycled.
Yeah.
But the containers that are shipped to the US and the Western countries come back with all their
Gotcha.
waste
Yeah.
and are dumped in countries like India
Yeah.
and African countries.
It's out of sight, out of mind for them, but it becomes our problem. You know, what's going to happen when all that plastic leaks into the soil? What's going to happen to our farms? Where's that? It's going to end up in our.
So it's very
food chain.
unfortunate. So
Yeah.
as a micro level, we have to actually take this initiative with every purchase that we make
Absolutely.
and make the
Be
right
conscious of
purchase.
that.
Be conscious. Be support conscious businesses.
Yeah.
I think that is how we should. And it is. We are so glad to have brands like yours in Goa,
We're trying,
and
yeah.
of course, and people can buy it anywhere in the world. Yeah,
We
you're
ship
shipping
globally.
worldwide.
Yeah, and it's carbon neutral shipping as well. We measure the carbon footprint of the actual shipping and we offset it as well. So, and that's a big part of what we are doing. Like I mentioned, No Nasties is about 14 years old, 15 years old now. For the first 10 years, we were trying to be a slow fashion brand, right? And we were successful at it. Where we're reducing our carbon footprint. We're saying let's minimize, let's reduce, let's make it less bad. At one point, we realized less bad is still bad, right? You might consume less, you might be thrifting as well, but you're consuming at some point, right? We have to wear clothes, unfortunately, right? But how do we turn that around? How do we make your purchase, your consumer action into a positive action, right? So 3 years ago, we remodeled No Nasties to what we are calling Planet Positive, where your purchase actually helps clean up the planet. And how do we do that? First, we make sure our impact is very small. You know, we measure our carbon footprint. We're the first ones to that we know of in India to do a full life cycle analysis for every garment, where we get to know what is the carbon footprint based on fabric sourcing, consumption, composition, and it spits out that, hey, this shirt, for example, is 18.3 kilos of CO2, right? And we reduce that footprint. But that's not enough. That's still making it less bad. How do we make it good? So for that, we say we are going to remove more CO2 from the air by investing in solar, wind, biogas through carbon offsets and tree
plant
planting.
trees.
And tree planting above and beyond that. So we first offset 300% of your carbon footprint to make sure that what you purchase actually now helped clean up the planet, clean up our air. And we don't stop there. We're going to do a lot more. We're going to do as much as we can with your money to make sure that the planet is doing better. So we plant 3 trees. At this point, we're at 180,000 trees planted globally. We started planting in India, but now we want to make sure that the trees are taken care of and we want to maximize the number of trees. So we planted mangroves in Mozambique and Madagascar. Now we're planting trees in Senegal to reduce the impact of the deserts. We planted in Brazil, Peru, everywhere.
So how do you keep track of these trees? Is it geotagged, or like how do you know? Like how do we know that it is there or it is thriving?
It's such an important question, right? Every brand is claiming to do so much for sustainability. How do you prove it, right? How do you make sure that the money which you think you're spending on is actually being used and not going into the pocket of the brands?
Like organizations like Cry and all these things, you know, every time you go on a plane, they need a donation for.
Yeah.
But how do we know that? Because there are documentaries that say that these NGOs in Africa they're not receiving, or the end people who actually deserve it don't get these money. So tell us like how we know that this money is going to the tree or the plant. I mean, just.
So I think that's where my background in software engineering and IT has helped out. We've made it data driven and transparent as well. You know, it's not like me just assuming that, okay, let's see online, what does Google say, what is the carbon footprint, right? Like I mentioned, we use software. We've invested in a life cycle analysis of our products. We use software to calculate based on supplier composition and consumption of fabrics to give you an actual number, right? So that's if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we measure everything. The second part is we work with similar organizations around the world which believe in transparency, which say that we will show you certificates and proof and verified by third parties, not just by the guys we're buying from or not the guys who you are buying from, like us, but third parties who verify every claim, right? So you can go to our website, you'll get an email when you purchase as well from us that here's your certificate. You can go to a third party website and say, take this ID from this email and say, show me the footprint. Where have you planted trees? How much money has gone into solar? How much has gone into wind? And you can get the project details as well. Right?
Wow.
So no greenwashing, nothing at all, because we can back it up with data. Right? We have transaction details of every product we've sold in the last few years as well.
So do you want to now, how would you define your brand as? Like, is it, you said it is not slow fashion anymore. So how would you define, is a planet positive?
Yeah.
And, but not fast fashion.
Of course not, right? So the analogy which I give is when it comes to climate change, we're all on a river heading to a waterfall, which is going to be the end of the world as we know it, right? Fast fashion is going full speed on that river on a speedboat, right? Slow fashion, which is what we were doing for the first 10 years, is going on a raft. But you're still going
You're heading
forward,
you're heading to
there,
disaster
right? Because
anyway.
any consumption is moving forward. Even if you don't buy anything, right? If you stop buying any clothes or any items, you're still drifting forward. What we need is to either get out of this river or back up, reverse, right? And that's where our planet positive model, our carbon negative model comes in. And we are actually removing more CO2 than we are creating. That's going reverse to fix the problem, not just say, I'm going to reduce my impact, right? And that's how we're positioning No Nasties to say, this is a model where consumerism is a force for good. Yeah. When you make it the company's responsibility to pay for their footprint, guess what's going to happen? Every company is going to race to make sure their product is sustainable. If they have to offset and pay for their carbon footprint, they're going to make sure they have the lowest carbon footprint. Right?
Yeah.
So our hope, our vision is that the No Nasties model, first of all, gets adopted by other companies, saying that this is the need of the hour, but also then comes into law. If it's legally required for you to remove your footprint,
Yeah.
then companies have to follow suit. That's how we can all collectively, with every purchase we make every day, turn this around and actually fix climate change. Yeah, it's an uphill task, but we've got to start somewhere. We're not even asking customers to pay for this additional stuff. It comes from our profit margins because we believe this is the way to showcase and be a lighthouse for other brands to say, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is possible because a
absolutely
lot of people will be like, oh yeah, that is, like we can talk about it and things like that, but it is not possible to actually run a business like this. But you are an example of how this can be done.
Exactly. We want to showcase that you can be sustainable and profitable. And the funds that you use as a company for sustainability almost is our USP, right? I think of it as marketing because I can justify that spend as well, right?
It's such a unique way of doing, like you stand out from any
Would
business.
I be here on this podcast with you, Sean, if I wasn't doing what I was doing?
Probably not.
Right.
No.
If I was a fast fashion brand, I'm not going to get invited to this place, right? So that for us is great, right? It's a win-win. It's not why we are doing it. Our DNA is sustainability. Like I said, I've shifted careers to do this because I believe in this. But it needs to be sustainable and profitable as a business owner as well, right? Otherwise, you can't continue doing it. We don't want to be a charity-based NGO model where we have to depend on external sources to keep doing the good work we're doing. So it's more of a social enterprise model in this case.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. And so what do you have to say about the future of fashion? Now you with consumers, like today, people are buying stuff clothing online. Even your brand is available online, of course, but it is today you can buy on Amazon or on Myntra, you can buy something for same day, 2 hours, or EMI, or they're just making it so easy for you to just buy something or buy something just because it's an event. So one of the conversations I was having with Sanjeev was that earlier, back in the day, people used to go out to buy clothes just if it was a wedding or a Diwali or a Christmas or an Eid.
It was need-based,
It was need-based. And there were 4 fashion weeks in a year, and now there's something like 52 fashion weeks in a year. Every week is a fashion week. Because that is what they want to continuously portray to you. There's even a fashion TV where there's like 24/7 models walking down the ramp.
24/7 runway throughout the year. It's crazy.
So wow, how did we get here? And like, how can we? Like with brands like yours, of course, we can, by supporting brands like yours, we can be more responsible and we can feel that, there's nobody is in a sweatshop working their asses off for me to buy this piece of clothing. So the intrinsic value is what we are not
Exactly.
paying, I think.
Exactly.
When we
The
are
true
buying
cost of
things,
it.
the true cost of a brand when we are in a mall, because the cost of water is simple
Everything.
example is like the groundwater.
Yeah.
You know, it's very cheap
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
If you go to buy a tanker of it, but that is not what we are paying, is not the true value of it, or the cost of a tree that they are chopping off, or the
Exactly.
farmer who has suicided and his family that is suffering.
Exactly. Yeah.
But all this cost is not finally added up to that product because somebody is getting a bad deal somewhere.
And
but
I think
nobody.
fast fashion or the pace of life is only accelerating the problem as well. So we've looked at it in two ways. One is try and fix the problem, right? Like, can we actually say make the best product, the minimal product, lowest footprint, do everything right, which we've always done from day one, right? The second is like we feel like we're swimming against the tide with consumerism. People are buying clothes quickly, throwing it away, wearing it for one use and throwing it away, right? Now, do we continuously fight that tide and those big brands coming in, or the way society is changing? I don't know. I think that's an uphill task, right? We'll continue to make the right product, but we've got to find a solution which fits with the way the world is going. And that's where Planet Positive comes in. What if we say that, okay, you can buy, but you have to make sure it's a positive impact, right? Where the brand has to say legally or from their own choice, make sure that the footprint is offset and you make a positive impact. I feel like that might be where we can get a larger scale. Say if H&M was required to do that, right? Then we're not too worried about it being a consumerist society, because each and every purchase is making a positive impact. And that's how we're phrasing it. I don't believe that we can be the rebellion which takes on the empire and say stop consumerism completely. We have to make a dent on multiple fronts.
Yes. Yes.
So we definitely are not going to give up on saying like, listen, this is the right thing to do. Reduce. Yeah. The first thing we all have to do is reduce. Right? Reduce our consumption, reduce our footprint, reduce our travel, reduce our food footprint as well. You know, and that's why being vegan is so much more sustainable than any animal meat source. Right? You know that better than anybody else as well. But how do we do that across all aspects of our life? So you're tackling food, I'm tackling fashion. How do we tackle travel? We can't tell people stop traveling completely as well. You know, it'll have to reduce, but how do we make travel sustainable? How do we make it a positive action you take, not slowly getting us to that waterfall we're going to? So we're trying. We hope that this is the model which will work. That's how I see the future of fashion, is that it is actually used as a positive change.
Yeah.
Not just landfills and landfills. How do we make it more reusable clothing, thrift clothing, circular clothing as well? What if we say that everyone has a budget for fashion? You can have, say, 10, 20 clothes in your wardrobe. If you want to buy something else, make sure something goes back to people who can't afford it, or goes back into reuse and upcycle into bags or whatever else we can make, right? So.
And now shifting from this whole organic and sustainability, one other thing that bothers me is like one of the things what I like the best first about your brand is it is so simplistic and minimalistic, and you don't have all these big logos and signs.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but this loud thing.
Yeah.
But that is, unfortunately, that is what people love. People pay, and people will pay you 4 times the money just to put a swish on the t-shirt.
Exactly.
So you are actually paying the brand to advertise for them.
Exactly.
So
how
that is
twisted
just
that?
I don't and people are buying into that concept of.
I'm so cool, I can buy this.
And the brand benefits from it more than anybody else, because this guy is walking around with like promoting this brand. So you've got like advertising and happening right there from the consumers.
Yeah.
It is like, for me, it is like, whoa, it's great marketing, I think. But you can never catch me doing something silly like that.
You won't see any logos on our products. Internally, externally, there's zero.
You don't even have labels.
We don't have labels outside with this. You wouldn't know it's a No Nasties unless you really know it or you talk about it, right?
Yeah. Or
I don't want
feel
to
it,
swoosh,
like, because
or you feel it.
Yeah.
So our take on that is that all of these values and sustainability initiatives are great, but the product has to be what stands out as well, right? So we use the best cotton we can. It's super soft, organic, eco-friendly dye, so it breathes as well. No synthetic, no plastisol dyes, which makes you feel hot in India. It's just crazy. But also, what is the design aesthetic? What's the language that we are using? When it's very clean, very minimal, because that's the world we see. We don't want to be flashy. We used to make graphic design T-shirts, but we don't anymore. It's not.
I'm glad you
not
don't.
Us.
Yeah.
We did some cool T-shirts. I know you have a vegan
hobby
series
war. I have a Herbivore T-shirt. I love it. I still have it.
Yeah, we had some fun vegan T-shirts. I think inspired by you as well. And my entire vegan journey has been inspired by Sean. When I came from Bombay to Goa, I was definitely a carnivore. Sitting here, talking to Sean, really examining my choices, and turned vegan. And within a year, I think I was completely vegan, and I've been that way for a long time, over 8-10 years now.
Wow.
But it was also moving to Goa. It allows you to think, right? You're not looking for an escape from your hectic day-to-day life and the noise of traffic, which takes you into like eating bad eating habits and drinking and stuff. We came to Goa. We were sitting in the green and talking to you, saying like, hey, why are you doing this? I'm like, oh, wow. Never really thought of it from that perspective. What is the impact of me eating a KFC or a McDonald's burger? Instant gratification for seconds, but what is the long-term impact on my health, on the planet, on the people, right? And why would I do that to my body, right? So switching from that to all those amazing wraps and bowls that you have here.
Thanks.
I'm like, this is the life I want to live. And that was attributed to Goa as well. Goa, and then meeting people like you, and with it, you guys have so many guests from the community, right?
Yeah.
That is so special about this, right? We don't have those conversations in the big cities.
It is inspiring each other, basically, and with actions that you do. So you get inspired. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are inspired. I'm inspired by your clothing and what you do, and you're inspired by what I do. And that is what Goa and this community in Goa is all about. We are just constantly pursuing to be better and to do better for everybody, and it just helps, and we just change to be a better person, a better human.
In fact, the No Nasties tagline is, we want to make this a better world, right? How do we make it better? We keep asking ourselves, like, we want to make it better, right? On all fronts, not just fashion and stuff. Like, how do we create a better world? Heal the world, not harm it. So, and I love the fact that we can have these conversations. The new challenge, obviously, as you know, is Goa is changing quite a bit, with rapidly in the last few years post-COVID. How do we sustain this community that we have? How do we have more of these conversations as well? And that, I think, is going to be the big talking point for us in the next few years. So
cool. That's a whole different podcast, but
that is a different podcast.
Cool, but Abu, thank you so much. I know you're busy. It was such a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to your new linen connection.
It's coming up in a month or so. It'll be amazing.
Cool. And for those of you who haven't checked out
NoNasties.in,
if you're in Goa, they have an amazing store in Asagaon and in Panchim. And if you're not in Goa, go on to your...
We have one in Bangalore as well.
Oh, there's one in Bangalore. Cool. So, and we used to have some of your clothing at Bean Me Up, but So cool.
Just check it out. Check out the website. Check out Instagram as well. I'd love to hear what people have to say about this.
Please put in your comments why you guys should not buy fast fashion, or what makes you buy the compulsively fashion. What is your take on it, guys? Just let us know.
If we know what the roadblocks are, we'll actively work on solving them, right? So talk to us.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. Thank you.
无聊的夜晚，把我逼进了街角的咖啡馆。我坐在窗边，看着一个两个人在狂欢。都市人的慵懒，咖啡味的惆怅，路灯下的呢喃，总有些。